The following is a review for critical, analytical, and educational purposes only, and is protected under Article 17 and 107 in the United States Fair Use Code. This video is not an infringement on copyright. Please enjoy the video. Okay. Now, in order to prepare for the upcoming Wolverine movie, let's take a look at the movie which details his origin story.
When it starts, whatever the reason is that you're doing this, focus on that. Maybe it will help.
Oh, it's okay. I've reviewed worse.
No, you haven't.
Okay then. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Trilbee, and to celebrate the upcoming The Wolverine about to be released, I thought it would be best to take a look at the last movie that had Wolverine as the lead character, X-Men Origins Wolverine. The X-Men franchise. The X-Men franchise. What are we gonna do with you? Your quality has really been all over the place for the past decade. Bryan Singer's X-Men from the year 2000 is considered to be part of the trinity of comic book movies that revived the comic book movie genre, along with Blade and Spider-Man. The movie was a big deal when it was first released, but I'd be lying if I said it had aged well. Don't get me wrong, it's still watchable and still enjoyable, but it's more well known for its reputation as opposed to its actual quality. X2, X-Men United from 2003, however, is an awesome movie, and I would say it was one of the best comic book sequels ever, but yeah, it has been surpassed, but it's still really enjoyable and a great movie with an amazing final reel. X-Men 3 The Last Stand. Okay people, let me be blunt. X-Men The Last Stand really is not as bad as people say it is. Okay, it's far from perfect, but it's got a great scope, some really awesome standalone scenes, a hell of a lot of balls. Think of it this way, The Dark Knight Rises didn't dare kill off its main hero. The Last Stand killed off 3 of them and permanently crippled about a dozen more. I'd actually go as far as to call it a good blockbuster, and whenever people say to me that it sucks, no one actually gives a reason. Seriously, I have yet to hear someone actually give legitimate reasons for disliking the movie. If you don't like it, fine, but reasons would be nice. But anyway, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, X-Men Origins Wolverine. X-Men Origins Wolverine was released on April 29th, 2009 in the UK and May 1st, 2009 in the US. It was distributed by 20th Century Fox and created by Marvel Entertainment and Donner's Company, and Seed Productions, and Ingenious Film Partners, Big Screen Productions, and Dune Entertainment. Have you ever heard of the phrase, "too many cooks spoil the broth"? Now keep that phrase in mind as we talk about the movie. It was directed by Gavin Hood and produced by Lauren Shuler Donner, Hugh Jackman, Ralph Winter, and John Palermo. It was written by David Benioff and Skip Woods, based off the Marvel Comics character Wolverine. The movie stars Hugh Jackman, Liev Schreiber, Danny Huston, Lynn Collins, will.i.am, and Ryan Reynolds, with music by Harry Gregson Williams, cinematography by Donald McAlpine, and editing by Nicholas Ditoff. It has a running time of 107 minutes, is rated 12A, and was produced on a budget of $150 million, and while it made quite a bit of money at the box office, earning $373 million, it was a disappointment considering the large box office takings of the previous installments. So yeah, as you've probably figured out, I don't like this movie. I didn't like it when I first saw it in theatres in 2009, and I still don't like it now. So let's take a look at what doesn't work about this film. The movie opens with a young Wolverine known as James Howlett, living in Canada, who sees his father killed by the family groundskeeper. This activates his mutant powers, causing bone claws to protrude from his hands, and he takes revenge, only to discover that the groundskeeper is his actual father. Thomas runs away with his brother, Victor Creed, and because of their healing factor and slow aging, they fight together in multiple wars over the decades before they're taken in by Major William Stryker, who enlists them in Team X, a group of mutants who go on missions for the government. The movie follows James, now under the name Logan, and what he did on the team, what happened afterwards, including a quest for revenge that caused him to get the procedure that turned him into Wolverine. On paper, X-Men Origins Wolverine seems like a really good idea and a great premise for a movie, but it just gets botched right out of the gates. The movie completely skips over Logan's childhood. We, as an audience, have no idea how he got along with his faux father, and his real one, so there's zero emotional attachment to either of them. In fact, their deaths are never mentioned again. It's the driving force of the beginning of the movie, but it's glossed over like it isn't even important. It's what caused his mutant powers to manifest as his bone claws come out for the first time. Let's gloss over the fact that the first movie clearly showed mechanical claws instead of bone claws. Also, what was Logan's relationship with his brother? Were they friends beforehand? Did they get along or not? These are important details that should be obvious, but the movie doesn't even attempt to inform the audience. This is important because when Logan and Victor go into battle in the future, it's shown that Victor is bloodthirsty and a ruthless killer, but Logan shows mercy and disapproves of Victor's and Team X's violent nature. What made them so different if they had practically the same upbringing? This is why we need the details of their wars together. This opening does have one awesome thing going for it, and that's showing Logan and Victor fight in multiple wars, such as the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, etc. It's an awesome and very well made sequence, but that's all it is, just a sequence. We get zero details about how the characters feel about living through all these conflicts. What do they have to say about the fact that they keep fighting wars and that humanity don't seem to be learning anything? What does it feel like to have soldiers who aren't fortunate to have a healing factor die around you while you live on? Why are Logan and Victor fighting on the side of America if they grew up in Canada? And how can Logan be living in the Northwest Territories of Canada in 1845 if they weren't even formed until 1870? These questions could easily justify an entire movie on their own, but no, they're just shoved aside in the first 5 minutes. That's what makes this movie so frustrating to watch. It has amazing ideas in the first 5 minutes, but it doesn't seem to realise it. It's as if the writers thought, nah, the audience don't want to see any of this interesting stuff. They want Deadpool. They want the Blob and Gambit and Cyclops and Silver Fox. They can't have any of those if they're fighting in wars. Oh, trust me, we'll get to the pointless mutants later on. Everything in the first act feels rushed, and it's screenwriting at its absolute laziest that's trying to get an emotional reaction out of the audience without even trying. Oh, it's so sad that Logan is leaving these people who we don't even know. And oh, it's so sad that Victor killed this mutant who we don't even know. Oh, and Logan gets taken in by an old couple later on in the movie who we then learn nothing about before they're killed off. How touching. Okay, let's talk about the Team X segments at the beginning. Yes, Team X storming the base at the beginning is an entertaining watch on a visual and conceptual level, but who are these people? Where did they come from? This Team X stuff should have been saved for later on in the movie, or maybe a potential sequel, not to be shoved in there when we're trying to focus on Logan and Victor's origins as well. The performances are solid, however. Ryan Reynolds is perfectly cast as Deadpool, Will.i.am is surprisingly good as John Wraith, Kevin Durand makes for a good Fred Dukes as he can sell the gormless aspects of the character, and Daniel Henney and Dominic Mahogany are good as Agent Zero and Chris Bradley respectively, but the script gives these two no material to work with. Oh, and Chris Bradley's powers are to manipulate and control electronics. But he's working at a carnival doing cheap light bulb tricks. He can control electricity, and that's the best job he can get? Oh god, I've been talking about how bad this film is for 2.5 pages, and I'm only up to the first 20 minutes. I'm gonna have to move on, or else I'll never get done. Okay, so after Logan leaves the team, the film jumps to 6 years in the future, where he lives a peaceful life in Canada with his girlfriend Kayla, who is a school teacher, as he works as a lumberjack. Okay, so what happened during those 6 years? How did Logan and Kayla meet? Does Kayla know about Logan's powers, and if she does, how did she figure it out? And do his powers factor into everyday life? These are all interesting questions that I just ignored and shoved aside because we need to get to the next convoluted plot point. But Victor starts killing off members of the old team for unknown reasons, and gathering up mutants. After killing Kayla and beating Logan to within an inch of his life, Logan vows revenge and Stryker offers him the tools to take him down. This of course leads to Logan taking part in the Weapon X experiment, where his bones are coated in the indestructible metal adamantium. Now think about what has happened in the movie up until this point. Logan has killed his family, fought in several wars, joined a mutant team, gone on several missions, found a girlfriend, got that girlfriend killed, sought revenge against his brother, and has undergone an experiment. Ideally, this would be the plot for an entire film, or maybe a television miniseries, but no, we still have an hour left. That's right, we're not even halfway through the movie. Do I even need to explain what the problem with this is? There's simply too much going on. This movie is taking decades of Wolverine's rich history and compressing them into hollow, meaningless chunks. What's baffling, however, is why didn't the movie end with Wolverine getting his metal skeleton? The previous movies clearly stated that he lost his memory because of the trauma of the experiment, but no, he still has his memory after the experiment, and he loses it in the most contrived and mind-blowingly stupid way later on. This is where the movie should end, and we could have spent over an hour building up everything else that previously happened. That is a movie I would like to see. Instead, we learn insignificant things like where Wolverine got his jacket from, or where he got his name from. He got it from a story that Kayla told him. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Screenwriting 101. Your movie may need to have exposition, but the exposition doesn't need to be boring. There are ways to engage an audience into the information you're going to give them. This is how you don't do exposition.
Why is the moon so lonely?
Why?
Because she used to have a lover.
You tell this to the kids?
No. His name was Kwekuwatsu, and they lived in the spirit world together.
Oh, that's a true story.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And every night, they would wander the skies together. But one of the other spirits was jealous. Trickster wanted the moon for himself. So he told Kwekuwatsu that the moon had asked for flowers. He told him to come to our world and pick her some wild roses. But Kwekuwatsu didn't know that once you leave the spirit world, you can never go back.
And every night, he looks up in the sky and sees the moon and howls her name.
What?
He can never touch her again.
You got screwed.
Kwekuwatsu.
Means the Wolverine.
And this is how you do good exposition.
In time, the brothers reached a river too treacherous to pass. But being learned in the magical arts, the three brothers simply waved their wands and made a bridge. Before they could cross, however, they found their path blocked by a hooded figure. It was Death, and he felt cheated.
Don't just have the character talk on camera for 2 minutes. Use visual aids, tell other aspects of the story at the same time while the character has voiceover, anything. Just don't give the character a boring monologue and do nothing visually engaging. Oh, and the logic. The logic in this movie is almost overpoweringly stupid. Why did Stryker want Logan's memories erased after they turned him into Weapon X? You have an absurdly powerful soldier who is willing to help you because you gave him the tools for revenge and you're just going to throw him away? You're setting yourself up to have to deal with a rogue agent later on, and on top of that, you did all of this to set up Deadpool later on. So Stryker gave a rogue agent an indestructible skeleton with claws, and that wasn't the end of the plan? And what about Agent Zero? Okay, his superpower is to shoot stuff incredibly well. He's incredibly accurate, has awesome skills with firearms, and he's asked to take out Wolverine when he becomes a loose cannon. Okay, let's just forget about the fact that they sent a man whose superpower is to shoot bullets really well to kill a man who's impervious to bullets. But look at what happens in the very next scene after Logan kills Agent Zero.
Zero never stood a chance. The only thing that'll take him down is an adamantium bullet.
And you didn't think to give the bullets to the mutant whose superpower is to use firearms? F*** it, I'm off. I'm going. I'll see you later. Bye. Can't do this. Okay, I'm back. I've slightly recovered. And speaking of bullets, in X-Men 2, a bullet to the head took Wolverine down for a few minutes, but here he just shrugs it off. There's no consistency to Wolverine's abilities in this movie compared to the original trilogy. Okay, so Wolverine manages to escape the facility. Now, Wolverine has just undergone an operation where his skeleton has been covered in an indestructible metal. He must be heavy as fuck. In fact, in the comic books, Wolverine can die if he's submerged in water for too long, with his healing factor only prolonging the agony because he's so heavy and can't swim. So with all that added weight, how can Logan jog immediately after his operation? Surely he'd have to adjust to the weight. Why wouldn't he crush the bed he's laying on? And in one scene, he's flung across the room by the Blob and he hits a bystander. That bystander should have been obliterated. Okay, to be fair, that is a nitpick. It's comic book logic. We're not supposed to question his weight, and it's not even meant to be a part of the conversation. So I'll give this movie the benefit of the doubt and we'll just ignore that.
Man, you're heavy. Yeah, I put on a little weight recently.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
You can't beat him.
Give me the adamantium.
Tasking.
We had a deal!
You would never survive the operation.
I can take anything he can.
No, you can't.
Wait, why wouldn't he survive? He has the same healing factor as Wolverine and he survived it. In fact, there are many aspects in this movie that go completely unexplained and are merely shrugged off by a single line of dialogue. Now, Fred Dukes becomes the Blob and is pretty much impervious to any sort of harm, as demonstrated in one of the dumbest and most pointless fights I have ever seen in a mainstream blockbuster. In fact, it's only because of Wolverine's adamantium skeleton that he's able to gain the upper hand, but a few scenes later, Victor says,
"I ain't Bradley, Victor, and your creepy black coat don't scare me."
Really? Worked on Dukes.
Wait, what? Sabretooth killed the Blob? F***ing how? No movie, no, that's not how Cyclops' powers work. He has concussive eye beams, not laser eyes. He can't just burn through objects like that. And, wait a second, what the hell is Cyclops even doing here? Okay, so we see Cyclops at school in 1981, and the X-Men movies take place in the year 2000. So are you saying that in the original trilogy, Cyclops was in his late 30s? No way. Okay, so let's give the movie the benefit of the doubt and say that it's not a prequel to the original trilogy, and that this is its own universe, with bone claws, a Sabretooth that doesn't even remotely resemble the Sabretooth he was in the first movie, a Wolverine that didn't lose his memory during the procedure, and many others. Okay, let's just give the movie that, and just... Okay, movie, you have no idea what the hell you are, do you? The script just reeks of laziness and a complete lack of thought.
Ooh. I can feel your spine, Johnny boy. That's funny. Never knew you had one.
Wait, will.i.am's character is supposed to be a coward? That wasn't even hinted at or established at all. And as if the movie wasn't busy enough towards the end, they introduce Gambit, who is only there for fan service. Then there's also Emma Frost and... Oh, Deadpool, what did they do to you? They took the mouth away from the merc with the mouth and got rid of his badass costume and replaced it with a drawn-on six-pack. You have to actively try to mess up a character like that. I wouldn't mind them sewing up Deadpool's mouth if he could somehow communicate with the audience through thought bubbles or breaking the fourth wall or something, but there's nothing like that here. Deadpool's ability to break the fourth wall is what made him unique in the comics. If you weren't going to utilise any of his traits in this film, then why have Deadpool in the first place? Just create an original villain or try another one. Okay, there's suspension of disbelief, and there's this. Look how long those blades are! Those blades are probably made of adamantium, an indestructible metal, but look at the size of them. When they're not retracted, they almost reach his shoulders. He wouldn't be able to bend his arms, and it's a stupid weapon anyway. When Deadpool uses the katanas at the beginning of the movie, he was able to fully utilise them because they had a handle, and he could bend his wrist to spin and twist them. When you have blades permanently attached to you, you've made the weapon worse. Just give Deadpool an adamantium skeleton and give him a pair of katanas. This is just common f***ing sense. One moment, please. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate why this wouldn't work. Jam! There we go. Do I honestly need to say any more? That's some really good tomato sauce. I'm going to try and get the back in the bowl because I'm not going to use it. Probably need a spoon for that, because forks don't work like that! That's it, I'm wrapping this movie up. The production values are all over the map, there's some decent cinematography at points, but the close-up fist fights are an absolute mess. I can't tell where anybody is or who's winning the fight, and the CG is a mixed bag as well. There are some decent set-piece moments, but there are moments of horrible green screen, poor composition, and let's just ignore this moment when Wolverine hacks away at the ladder, and... This movie was made in 2009, 9 years after the first X-Men movie, and somehow his claws look better in that older movie than they do here. Okay, I understand CG claws in the action sequences, like this really awesome shot where he turns the bike around. Okay, I get that. But for shots when he's just standing there with them on display or just looking at them, for God's sake, save some freaking money and just get props. And is that Patrick Stewart? Oh my god. The younger Patrick Stewart looked better in X-Men The Last Stand than he does here. How has the special effects work gone backwards for this film? The music is okay. It's by Harry Gregson Williams, so it's going to be good anyway. But seriously, there isn't anything memorable in there. But after all of the criticisms that I've levelled at this movie, I can still forgive a lot of things. Really, I can. I can forgive the needless convolution, the stupid logic, the inconsistent ties to the original movie, everything. If it was just entertaining. But it's not. X-Men Origins Wolverine is boring. Really, really boring. This movie is an absolute snorefest. A movie can survive a lot of things, but being boring is not one of them. This movie is an absolute stinker. Yes, the actors throw themselves into it, which is commendable, especially Hugh Jackman, who is completely dedicated to the role of Wolverine, and that's very admirable, but even his character doesn't work in this movie. Wolverine is exactly the same character throughout the entire movie. When he's part of Team X, he's the same person as he is when he moves to Canada. He's the same person when he becomes Wolverine. He's the same person when he loses his memory. He doesn't change at all as a character. He was exactly the same type of person before his amnesia as he was afterwards, which means that there's nothing new to gain by watching this movie on a character level. Everything from his animal instinct, his catchphrases, the way he talks, nothing has changed between X-Men Origins Wolverine and Bryan Singer's first X-Men movie, which means it fails as a prequel, and on top of everything else, it just fails as a movie full stop. And considering that this movie came out in 2009, 1 year after The Dark Knight, Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, and Hellboy 2: The Golden Army, 4 of the greatest comic book movies ever made, it just seems insulting to come out after greatness like that. With a horrible script, insulting logic, poor effects, and just being so staggeringly boring, X-Men Origins Wolverine gets 1 star out of 5. But as usual, let's find out what you guys and girls had to say about the movie. So there are some people who think this movie is okay, and some people who hate this movie just as much as I do. But when I look back on X-Men Origins Wolverine, I see nothing but disappointment and squandered potential. What's most depressing is that this could have been a good movie, but the creators just didn't know when to leave well enough alone. This movie could have ended after the 45-minute mark and would have been better for it. It could have cut out about a dozen of the pointless mutant cameos and it would have been a stronger product. This movie is a waste of space, and thank God X-Men First Class pretty much retconned it. And speaking of X-Men First Class, it was really disheartening to see the initial box office takes for that movie. I saw it on my birthday on its opening weekend and thought it was amazing, so I was quite disheartened when the box office wasn't as high as people predicted it would be, and it's often thought that because of how bad X-Men Origins Wolverine was, that it turned off audiences completely to the X-Men franchise, which is a shame that X-Men First Class had to pay for the sins of its predecessor, but thankfully the movie has received a lot of acclaim, and that's pretty much, it's garnered a great audience, and a sequel for next year, Days of Future Past, which I'm really looking forward to, and I'm slightly more optimistic about the Wolverine because I've heard some really good things about it, so there's that. That's all from me. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for more movie reviews, and be sure to follow me on Twitter and like my Facebook page. You can like me at Facebook Trilbee Reviews, and you can follow me on Twitter at Trilbee Reviews. Be sure to like this video as well, because it really helps me out as it helps to spread this video around and share my videos, which really helps me. And yeah, that's all from me, and if you want to leave a comment for what my next movie will be that I'll be reviewing, then be sure to go on my Facebook page and leave a comment on the latest picture, which details my next review and when it will be available. So yeah, I shall see you guys next time. God, that review was exhausting. So what are we reviewing next week? Oh, mother